Hang on, mate, so there I'm pumping away.
Yes.
Look, you have to pump to make it go up, right? You got to pump, pump, pump.
Doctor's orders.
Doctor's orders, mate.
Okay.
You pump it up and you finally can get it up, and if you really need to pump, you can get on both.
2 hands.
Oh!
Oh, hello there, and welcome to another episode of Mighty Carmords, proudly supported, of course, by our friends at Just Car Insurance. Now, last time you would have caught up with us, unfortunately, Gramps died.
That's right, mate. Look, we at our age, we do lose compatriots every now and then.
What are we going to do, mate?
Mate, I think we're going to possibly have to throw out that shell.
Mate, I threw out a shell once.
Really?
Absolutely. I was walking along the beach with a lovely lady. Waves were coming in. I looked down. There was
there's a metaphor.
No, she was not. I was not paying for it. She was not a lady of the night.
Metaphor.
Oh, metaphor.
Yeah, that's what this is.
Yes,
Okay.
Hear me out.
Yep.
So there's a shell at my foot, a little shell, quite an ugly one.
Yep.
Some kind of creature trying to get out. Not a very pretty fellow.
Right.
Kind of like Finding Nemo with a drug addiction.
Right.
And I picked him up and threw him back out of the water, back from the hell whence he came.
Right.
And I continued walking along. I found a bigger shell. I held it against my ear. I heard the ocean. I heard the sounds of my youth. I could hear seagulls. I could taste the fish and chips.
Mate, what is the point of this story?
I'm just trying to tell you, it gets bigger and better. You throw away the shell, we can get bigger, mate.
And how do you suppose we do that?
Martin, keep watching, and you'll find out.
That's Miles's electronic box there. Dripping water. Haltech won't light up. Fuse box is also dripping water, so I'd say don't know necessarily the electronics in there are fried, but that being soaked is bad, so it's going to go to Mechanical Stib's shop and it's all going to get dried out. I'm going to hope for the best and hope that we haven't fried anything, and then go again. So the verdict is all the electronics completely drowned. The fuse box is also full of water, continually pops fuses, and we can't get the actual Haltech to boot up, so I've pulled out all the external boxes. This won't power on, which means it's actually dead, so we're gonna have to go and see Scotty and hat in hand and say, hey, can you please fix our very fancy expensive ECU.
Haltech Elites are waterproof, but not when you still have your temporary programming and CAN ports connected because you haven't finished the install process. And with the amount of water that ended up in the footwell, it never stood a chance. So we're off to see Scott and the engineers at Haltech to get their opinion on what to do next.
Got some watermarks?
It's enough that that one's been underwater. Like all there, it's all there.
Yeah.
Just all there.
Balls. But because it had no windscreen, all the water ran down.
Okay, here we go.
Alright. Water there too. So Scotty, all those white bits, that's where the smoke's still being let out, right?
Where all the water's dried on.
Oh wow.
So on that one, I don't even think we'll try and repair that. I think we'll just write it off.
Really?
Yeah.
Just as dead.
Yeah.
So
It's too hard and you can't warranty it. If you even could get it back to life, there's that many connections there that you couldn't warranty it and it's going to die sooner or later.
yeah. Yeah, right. So that new ditch you've got at the front that you need me to now dig for the next 3 weeks. How's that looking?
Convenient for us, really.
Yeah, right. Oh man.
Don't say
Don't
that.
go
say
swimming.
that.
Don't take your elite swimming. That's what we have to learn from this.
And we don't swap ditch digging for ECUs either.
Really?
Otherwise, everyone's going to turn up here digging holes.
Yeah, but not with the finesse that I will. All right, cool. Well, I thought once it got left out in the rain, I thought it'd be wise to bring it here and get your professional opinion.
I thought we were building Subarus, not Scoobaroos.
Oh wow.
This could be so mad if it was not wet.
Yeah, so there's probably a couple of centimetres of water down there. And granted, that's not where you'd normally mount an ECU, but the car wasn't finished, so that's why nothing was mounted. It had no inside. But I guess now it's like, what do we do?
Sucks, man, because this was like the car I picked.
Yeah, it's like 6
I
months
guess
ago, I think.
Now you got to like build it better.
I think it's more a question of, do you think like when you put a couple of litres of water through a car with no windows, like what happens?
The problem is you don't know, without pulling the dash out, you don't know what's happened. Like, there's a lot of wiring behind the dash, and there's also like foam, and it's never designed to have water behind the dash. So
I was speaking to a guy who makes boats today, and he said that if a boat takes in water, like they straight away cut the loom out and put a new loom in. So yeah, like at minimum, it's going to need a loom.
it's like full rewire,
Yeah.
and then
So I don't know. I mean, all the ECU stuff's got to be replaced. The seats got completely soaked through, so I don't really know what to do about that. My concern is that there's a lot of wiring back there that's now been wet for quite a considerable amount of time, and kind of all the stuff that comes on it. All my airbag wiring was submerged.
yeah, that's sort of fairly important.
So yeah, so now, I don't know. What do you think, man?
It's a lot of work that
So-
we put into this car, but at the end of the day, we want it to last. So I guess we got to look for another car again.
A new shell? Do you reckon that's actually going to be easier?
I guess so. Well, otherwise we have to make that harness, and that's not like 5 wires, dude. There's like hundreds of wires behind that dashboard. So you've either got to find another car and then steal the harness out of it, or find another car and then use that car. Because the other problem is there's all these panel joins in here that are never seam sealed because they're not designed to have water in the back of them. Like, you're now looking at rust issues, wiring issues. Even the seats might go mouldy. Like, the car's screwed, bro.
When you look at the shell as a car, you can kind of look at it and go, well, there's nothing wrong with it, it'll be totally fine. But when you kind of add up these kind of gremlins, it just doesn't make sense to use the same thing unless we were to swap an entire engine loom, potentially a body loom as well. It's just drowned, which means it's shorting stuff out. So the car it'll start, but it won't run properly. The battery voltage comes up to 20 volts, which means something's being shorted out, which means a fuse will crack at some point. So it's looking kind of like cutting losses and just going with a new shell, whether it's the same, new, or whatever we can find. But yeah, bigger and better. As much as it pains me to throw out a shell with a lot of work into, I just do not want to be chasing gremlins for the next 5 years of my life while I own this car. Hopefully longer than 5 years. So that's it for now. You're going to pack up and leave it at Itchy Barn, and if it turns out we end up throwing the shell away, then everything gets pulled out here, and we'll go and see Turbo Yoda and Dose Vader again.
Turbo Yoda used the Force and we made a plan. Gramps would be reborn.
Benjamin! I got containers!
That's awesome, dude. I can barely contain myself.
Oh wow. So what are we going to do? What's the order? What's the order of engagement?
Strip all the Haltech stuff out in the car, pull the loom through, strip anything on the bay that's going to stop the engine going out the bottom.
Oh, engine out the bottom?
Yeah, just drop the whole lot out the bottom on the fork and then put it on a pallet and send it to Al.
Oh, yeah. Bigger and better, Benny. Let's look at the positive side.
Onwards and upwards, dude.
Onwards and upwards, exactly.
All you need to strip a Subaru is 10mm, 12mm, screwdriver, pliers, literally. You can do the whole engine bay with that until you get to things like engine mounts, which is awesome, which means it shouldn't take long.
The entire turbo setup, including the up pipes, dump, intercooler, headers, and the turbo itself, need to come off. They'll be transported in containers and then put back on the engine when it's reshelled. Then he let me borrow his hoist, which makes it a whole lot easier to get everything from under the engine off. It all comes apart fairly easily thanks to the V-band flanges we used when we first put it together.
Starting to pull apart the manifolds. We could probably leave that and drop it down, but I don't want the engine to rest on the manifold, so we're going to pull all that off just to keep it safe. Now I'm going to drain all the fluids out of it, and then I can pull the turbo off, which means we can then get the up and down pipe off. None of this is simple stuff. Anyone who's watched the series recently remember how much time and work went into putting that stuff in there. It's actually quite tricky to get it all out because of the way it's packaged up. So, fluids next, then we'll be dropping the motor.
So ready to pull the turbo off.
Do it.
See, and that's why I wanted to practice.
That's the best thing that's happened all day. Blooper. Beep, boop.
See ya.
Where you going?
With what?
Where you going to?
That's all on it.
Yeah, that didn't work. Give my turbo back.
What turbo?
Benny agreed to return my turbo, but only if I agreed to help him work on his dirty Nissan. With the fluid dropped and radiator out of the way, we could begin pulling more parts off Gramps. We're also going to drain the oil for when the engine is in transit.
So Benny, that oil's not that old, like a couple of maybe 1,000 Ks.
Yeah.
It's like caramel.
It's probably the E85 contamination.
Contamination? What do you mean?
So you,
awesomeness.
well, because you run so much E85, sometimes you get a bit of fuel wash.
Yep.
And if you smell it,
Smell everyone.
it actually has an E85 smell.
Blop, 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 blop. Next up, we've got to pull the wiring loom through from the engine bay. So we've unclipped everything on top of the engine, all those Deutsch connectors that we used last time. Now we can actually pull the loom through. That's all the stuff from the top of the motor. And that is our Haltech loom. A couple of wires to undo here for the rest of it. That's pretty much it. Been over a week since it was out in the rainstorm. And I'm still getting dripped on when I'm working up under the dash.
The wiring loom itself is waterproof with Deutsch connectors on both ends, but it is a good time to check it for any issues.
You know you've got a project car when you've drained more tanks of fuel out of it than you have run through the engine.
The jerry cans full of sweet ethanol would wait until we returned, along with any other parts that aren't essential for the swap.
Just drop it out the bottom.
Cool.
Might be a little bit of shimmying with the radiator support. We might have to pull it back and down a little bit, but
And everything else is disconnected, neutral
Yeah.
switches and all that kind of crap.
it's all ready to go.
So with the help of Mr. Forklift to do the last bit of lifting, we're out, dude. Look at that.
The EZ36 is finally out of the car and ready to go. It gets strapped down to a pallet along with a cross member and some other parts so we can take all of it on the long drive up to AM Auto in Queensland.
So that's it for today. Gramps is empty, there's nothing left. You don't want to know what he's doing to the shell, but it's going to make it easier to move around. So next, take all this gear up to AM Auto. Thanks, Benny.
Alright, bro.
Thanks, man. I'm going to go to Queensland now. Have fun. Visit your mate.
See you, bro.
Bye.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm very excited about next episode, mate.
That's right. I mean, this is an unexpected turn of events.
Absolutely.
But when you are presented with lemons, you make sweet, liquid, yellow lemonade.
What the are you talking about, Martin?
It's a metaphor, mate.
Oh, so the metal hall.
It's a metaphor.